making stuff and jacked up.
So much.
Making stuff and jacked up. Making stuff and jacked up.
Trust me.
You're listening to Meadows and Makers podcast
with Jack Dub and making stuff. Peace.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another week of the Meadows and Makers podcast. Right, brought to you here, right down the MSP waves, this social interactive media broadcast that we have going on here through, enabled through our Steemit community. I appreciate everybody being here that showed up this morning. We'll do a quick shout out to Downvotes, Kodaks, Mama Monza, Philip Keen, and Rondon. Thank you for being here, and welcome wherever you are in the time-space continuum. Today, I got a really great show and a really great guest lined up for you guys. I think you guys will really enjoy who I'm bringing on today. He's got a really cool story, and he's a pretty interesting character that's going on a new journey in his life to get a homestead started in Portugal. So just some housekeeping I need to do up front here. Just the disclaimer for the show is that the views and opinions that are expressed by myself and the guests do not reflect on MSP Waves or the wonderful people that run this interactive social media broadcasting network. And if you have any questions or feedback, please send them my way at Making Stuff. Feel free to send me a DM or make a comment on the show post if there's anything that you guys would like to see me cover there in the future. This is an interactive broadcast, so if you're hanging out here in the Discord channel, feel free to ask any questions you have during the show, and I will try to field them as best as possible with my guest. And so anything that you guys want to bring up, feel free to type that in the chat. If you're on the Discord, if you're also listening on Vim TV, then you guys can interact as well. The bot brings in the chats into Discord, so if you guys are listening over there, feel free to come in with your questions. So this show is all about homesteader and maker type folks that I can find around the Steemiverse and bring to you guys and try to learn some of their stories and try to be some of an inspiration to others that are out there, to show that there's a different way of living now. And so that's my goal, is to bring those people on and to try to spread the resilience mindset and the human creativity. And so without further ado, let me introduce today's guest. His handle on Steemit is Orlev, at Orlev, and he is a self-proclaimed jack of some trades, and his family is currently on a journey of moving from Israel to Portugal. And we're going to get to know Orlev today and learn more about his story and share that with the rest of you guys. And so, yeah, without further ado, how's it going, Orlev?
I'm very good. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you for taking your time to be on the show. I really appreciate it. You reached out to me or made a comment on one of my posts, and I started digging into your blog, and you are a very interesting individual, and that has got a really cool journey that's happening right now that it would be right in line with everything that I'm about on the show. So, yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your time with us this morning. And so if you'd like to maybe give everybody a little bit of a background on who you are and how you made it here to Steemit.
Well, I'd love to. I mean, it's always very difficult to try and sum up, your life into like a pithy tale, but I'll do my best.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did. I grew up in Israel. Here I went through the pretty, normal life cycle of after we finished our 12 years in school, we go to the army for 3 years. And then after that, usually most people sort of blow off some steam and go to India. And I knew as soon as I finished the army that I wanted to leave. And as far as I was concerned, I wanted a one-way ticket. I had no intention of coming back as yet. So I made my plans, and I wanted to go to South America. And so my intention was to study shamanism. I won't go into everything that happened there, but it took me a long time to get myself straight after the army and managed to actually save up the money that I needed. So I left 5 years after the army. So that was like 2000 and when was it? 13, I think. And then I was in Ecuador for 6 months. Came back to be with my now wife and to spend 6 months here when she finished her university studies. And then we headed off to India. And that was where our lives took a very big change. We met two very special people whose handles are at EcoAlex and at Economy. And they sort of opened the doors for us as to off-grid living, growing your own food, designing natural buildings, all of these sort of things. It was a 3-month, very, very intense time. We actually lived in a half-finished cob house, which was pretty much done, but it was missing a couple of walls, some holes, and the roof wasn't exactly held on, no insulation. But it was perfect for us. It was very intense, no electricity. The water was basically just running from the river, so there was no hot water, no real oven, so we cooked on a fire. But for us, it was a clear indication because we had a very powerful experience there, living so close to nature, so far away from the regular culture and everyday life. And it was from that moment that we knew this was how we wanted to live our life, and this was how we wanted to start our family. So the idea was to go back to Israel, and even though we had some people there who offered us to join their communities or offered to, come and stay on their land, we felt we really wanted to do it in Israel. There was a reason that we were sent to this place, and I feel that this is a place, Israel is a place that could really use some healing on all the different levels, and starting with the ground is a great place to start. But after a year of going around different communities, visiting different places, and we spent 6 months herding goats and making cheese up north in this beautiful, quiet place. But all over, we just came to the realization that we couldn't do it here. And the reason for that was that it's actually illegal currently, as of this broadcast. It's illegal to collect rainwater. It's illegal to make biogas. It's illegal to build without concrete foundations. All of these things don't have any place. So this concept of living naturally with the land is just against the law, right? I won't go into why, but I researched the subject quite a lot, and when we realized that it wasn't possible to do it here, we decided then we have to go somewhere where it is. So we started researching. We looked into a lot of different places. I was very drawn to South America. Specifically, I was really interested in the area, the Central America, Costa Rica, and we even looked at some lands online. But eventually we decided it was a bit too far. We looked at different places in Europe, Greece, and Spain. But eventually, when we actually looked at Portugal's government and the way that they were treating this whole green movement, we decided this is the place for us because we feel it's a very, very advanced government in terms of the law, in terms of the way they see, ecological development and sustaining the natural environment and the wildlife, etc.
Okay.
So so that was basically what we decided to do.
Wow. Yeah.
In a nutshell.
Yeah. So, Alex, he's another Steemian, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, back then they told me about Steemit, both of them, Alex and Economy, and I sort of didn't really understand, and I didn't quite get to what it was about, and so I kind of didn't think about it for 3 years until probably a couple of months ago, June, when I just happened to speak to Economy, and we sort of talked about our plans, and he said, Steemit's been going now, and since 2016 with the the Steam being a currency, etc. It's been doing amazing stuff, and he told us about him, how he's been writing articles, and he managed to even make some money. So I sort of decided to pick it up again, and it's been amazing. I mean, I started looking into it and sort of trying to understand, and it's a lot bigger than I can wrap my head around right now. But just the idea of making content and sort of having a completely neutral ground where it can be accepted or rejected just based on people and what they think was a very enticing concept for me, coming from Facebook and YouTube. When I discovered this thing, DTube, which is still a part of Steemit, right? But they're kind of breaking off from what I understood.
Yeah, they've become a parallel to, they're still connected to the Steemit blockchain, but they have created their own token that you get rewarded in. So that's happening in parallel to the Steem blockchain.
Right. Okay. So so I sort of just now discovered DTube and was amazed by it and the content. So I really connected with it. And as soon as I started posting, I was just blown away by the reception and the warmth of people, and so many, really individuals coming to me and saying, welcome, good to have you here, keep making great content. And it's such a different experience from all of the different platforms that I've sort of been through. And I haven't been into cryptocurrency much, but Steemit has been a real beacon for me, the internet, of having this completely different experience where there's very little negativity.
Yeah.
I mean, I look through other people's posts and other comments and not just my own, and it's really hard to find people who are just negative, which is so easy to find on, YouTube comments or other places, Twitter. So it's a very, very special environment. And now I want to make these videos, so I thought it's the perfect platform for us and for our family and for our journey, finding people like you and a lot of others in the Homestead Co-op, all of these homesteaders who are posting and sharing their knowledge and, letting us see inside their lives was really very amazing for me to find.
Yeah, there is a really great community, and I think part of that for why people are invested in this platform. If you're holding the Steem token, you're somewhat of a partial investor in the platform, and
Right.
and so people have some kind of stake in how things work out here. And so, on the other platforms like YouTube and all those are free platforms, and then you're kind of allowing anybody to come in there and just kind of, they have no stake in the thing, so they can. They don't care what the outcome is, and they can kind of just be pretty nasty sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
in the
and for no
comment
good reason
sections.
sometimes. The concept of trolling. There's no reason. It's just to do that.
Yeah, yeah, and so kind of built into Steam is you have the ability to downvote and these kind of things, which is actually a monetary. You get penalized monetarily with the payback in cryptos. So,
Right.
to fight against plagiarism, different things like that. You have the downvote feature, and it can kind of, I guess it kind of encourages more people to be more positive. But all in all, I think the people that are here are people that are interested in changing things to a new direction, and people that are involved in cryptocurrency in general are have that mentality that we can, not fight the current system, but create a better system, and
Right.
that replaces that one. And so I think you find a lot of like-minded people here that are looking to build instead of tear down.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, I think one of the pivotal moments for me with Steemit was reading Eco Alex posting about wanting to start this community that was absolutely exactly what we wanted, and with gift currency and with cryptocurrency funding. And it was just, I've been explaining to people for so long about what we want to do and how we're going to do it. And here's this platform where immediately I get this, clear sign that this is the place for me. This is a place where there's good people and talented and creative and really amazing people who are working very hard to make the world a better place. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, and we're discussing a little bit before the show on just the amount of people that are willing to help you here. Once you get involved in these communities, and Powell is one of the bigger ones here. With they run regular podcasts and shows to kind of help connect people in the community. And once you do that and you get more connected with the other users on the platform here, it makes the experience a totally different thing. And that's why I really like to bring in people on my show, is to kind of get to know them a little better, and get them get people networked in with the other people around here a little bit better to help them on their path.
Yeah, it's amazing work what you do, and I really want to thank you personally for allowing me to come on, and for I'm very excited, not just about this podcast, but about the connection that I'm making with you, and hopefully with new people in the future.
Absolutely, brother. Yeah, it's tons of great people here, and yeah, it's only going to grow. So thank you for being here. So maybe we can get into a little bit of your journey into Ecuador. So you spent so everybody in Israel has a mandatory conscription in the army, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Women it's 2 years, and for men it's 3 years.
Okay.
And if you're healthy and you got no real problems, then you're probably going to be drafted into combat. It's getting better, but it used to be pretty hard to get out of combat duty if you were fit.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
intense.
yeah, yeah. It's a tough life, I have to admit, and it's a lot of there's a lot of things that are very dark and sinister about it. Things that are coming out recently more and more, but from the treatment of women in the army in general, tremendously male chauvinist place, and soldiers' depression, which is a real serious problem that nobody's talking about. So it's not just a small percentage. It's a a very logically a very occurrence of people who don't want to be there and are
Right.
really suffering for it. Yeah.
Right, especially because it's you can't get out of it, huh? There's no way of getting out of it. You just got to go.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few ways. One of them is sort of convincing a psychologist that you're mentally unstable and you can't be there, which does happen, but it means you have to go through a procedure and you have to lie to a mental professional. And another way is sort of going to prison, where you refuse orders for a number of times, and if you go to prison for, I don't know, wherever they give you a few months, and then you can get out. But if you're getting out that way, you have to spend time in prison.
Yeah.
So there's a few ways, but obviously it it's a big deal, and most people definitely do it. Most people, you know,
Yeah.
realize it's an easier course. So yeah, I did it.
Yeah. So do they teach you, like survival skills and stuff and all that, and combat training and all that when you're in there?
Um, they do a little bit. I mean, I'll admit I wasn't the best student at the time, but
Yeah.
they teach you some basics about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
not very motivated,
Yeah.
but there's a lot
You
of
didn't want to
focus
be
on.
there.
Yeah, no. From pretty much from day one, and 3 years is a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they teach you some survival skills. I mean, the basic like astronomy of guiding with the stars or where the sun comes out, or some basic things of building a shelter. But it was basically, I think, 2 weeks in basic training, and that's about it. So
Okay.
most of the time you're shooting guns, a lot of
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So after that, you said you spent some time. Uh, uh, you went to school after that.
No, I didn't go to school.
Okay.
I was into saving money for the trip, but I found it very hard to hold down a job coming out of the army and coming out of, basically 15 years of people telling me what to do,
Yeah.
having all this freedom suddenly of, if I don't wake up in the morning or I don't go to work, then there's no real consequences. And I got fired from a lot of different jobs that I took. Basically, every job that I took, I'd stay there for about 2 to 3 months, and then I'd either leave or they'd fire me for 2 years, I think, something like that. So it
Okay.
was for me, it really felt like getting over that all of that baggage that I had from the army. I didn't have any serious combat conflicts that I was part of. Thankfully, and
Yeah.
all of my training was basically I was a commander, so I would train new recruits, but the baggage that was there emotionally of having to wear the uniform, having to do what I'm told, having no personal freedom, suddenly being let free is a very dangerous feeling as well, because you can take it, too far to the other side.
Right.
And it happens a lot in Israel. People go to India, start taking, too many substances or getting caught up in whatever religions or cults. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I've done a lot of that myself.
Yeah.
But people do it in an imbalanced way, and not governed and not checked enough. And that's when it can lead to more dangerous things. So
Yeah.
for me, it just, yeah,
So it's kind of like having a sheltered child or something like that, and then they get out into the world and they just go crazy.
exactly. If you've seen young Israelis who just got out of the traveling, you'll recognize it immediately. Absolutely.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, that's wild, man. That's a whole different perspective on things that not really used to here in the States. So
Yeah. It's different because it's also so normalized. It's a mundane thing. The army. You see people with guns all the time. You see soldiers all the time. We've all been there. So it's a weird state to be so used to guns and so used to army that it's like a natural part of life. Kids dress up as soldiers. When it's our version of Halloween, and people hear about army stories throughout high school, and all these things are sort of gearing you up towards it. And it's like a fish in water. It's nothing unusual about it. It's only
yeah,
after I left Israel and met people who were in a country where they didn't get drafted and didn't have to go to the army, where I was like, oh wow, yeah, I guess that's pretty messed up if you think about it.
Well, do they let you keep your arms after you leave the army, or there's nobody? You can't own weaponry as a civilian.
You can, and it's pretty easy here for combat soldiers, understandably, because they've had experience. But yeah, but in Israel it's weird. There's really no gun violence of people carrying guns that I know of. Because there's this sort of acceptance and everyone here kind of can have a gun,
Yeah.
so it's something that's not very it's just so normal. I don't know. Yeah, most, like, in certain areas of the country, especially areas that are more, out there and away from the cities, everyone carries a gun. Many of them have a bullet in the chamber all times.
Right.
It's a very, kind of like a Wild West feeling sometimes over there.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing here. Yeah. It's in the
Right.
U.S. Everybody. You don't know who's carrying. So, yeah. It's one of the things that the Japanese emperor said is that back in World War II times is that they dare not invade the mainland because there would be a gun behind every blade of grass. So yeah, and you do find that people are more polite in the areas that they have less gun control and all that kind of stuff. So I am a big Second Amendment guy here in the States and believe that everybody has the right to self-defense, and so yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That is I kind of hold the mentality of the do no harm but take no shit.
Yeah.
But,
Absolutely. I'm not a gun person myself, but I mean, I was a tanker man, so it's like after you've fired a tank, the guns are like a different level of things,
Yeah.
with that cannon. But I have no problem with guns per se, and it's interesting in Israel that there's no real discussion about gun laws, and there's no real debate. Nobody's really talking about making guns harder to get or whatever. But exactly as you said, I think it's do no harm, and as long as everyone's doing no harm, then there really shouldn't be any problem.
Yeah, yeah. So that carried you. You said that you had kind of found a connection to the tribal shamanism, and that kind of carried you to a trip into Ecuador, huh?
Yeah. I was searching after the army, and I found a few things that kind of helped me. One of them was Taoism, who Alan once, a great teacher, kind of introduced me to it. And another one was definitely psychedelics, and I had listened to a lot of Terence McKenna, Robert Anton Wilson, and all these kind of guys, and I became intrigued, and I actually read about psychedelics and listened to people talking about it for years before I actually tried, my first time. But after experiencing it and having these life-changing experiences, I realized that, okay, this is the real deal. This is where I want to go. Who understands this? Who are the leaders of this field? Who are the people who really are the masters of using this tool, basically? And in my mind, it still is the shamans, wherever they are in the world. Like, the shamans dedicate their lives to learning how to heal with these substances. That I'm saying that a real shaman who actually lives as part of a community, and that's his role, that's his function in society, basically.
Right.
So I realized that if that's the place where where this knowledge can be found, and that's where I'm going to go to. So I actually planned my trip because I wanted to have Spanish, because I knew that was going to be a problem over there. So I planned to volunteer for 4 months in the Amazon in Ecuador, and
Okay.
I thought there I could start making some contacts and maybe meeting some local people and work on my Spanish, and that way sort of get started in that direction.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I did, and it was a very special experience, but completely different from what I expected.
Yeah.
I was expecting to live with this community of people who are sort of living with the land and the native tribes, and it was a mestizo community. So basically there's different, like, classes in South America and Ecuador, and the mestizo are the white people who mixed with the natives. So they're like one of the higher classes. They're the ones who kind of have all the money and bought the land, etc. So it
Oh.
was a mestizo community, and I mean, there was a television there was cable, they had a PlayStation. I was shocked. I mean, my
Yeah.
first day in the jungle in the Amazon, and I see this PlayStation 1 connected to this old TV. So
Yeah.
it was very different from what I expected, but it was
Okay.
a good experience. It was very meaningful. It was very interesting to live with people out there in the jungle, and I think especially the connection, living so close to nature. I mean, there were snakes there. We bathed in the river. I mean, insects, like the ants there were insane. I'll never forget that. So it was
Oh
a
yeah.
very, yeah, it was a very good experience. I
Don't
learned a lot.
stand in one location for too long.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You
Yeah.
won't. Yeah, you'll start dancing. So,
Yeah, I've had a similar experience with the psychedelics on with some magic mushrooms, and it kind of I think one of the big things is that I took away with it away from it was a different connection with other people, and maybe seeking a deeper connection with people is the important thing, and the relationships was the thing that I kind of the lesson I learned coming out of it. But the ego death is one of the big things I think is another thing I experienced was that uh, losing what makes you
Mhm.
during the process in one pretty intense experience. I kind of forgot what it meant to be a human being or who I was, and
Wow, yeah.
and had a little bit of an out of body thing going on.
Wow, how do you experience the outer body? Did you see yourself?
Well, it was a little bit of a leaving. I left the body, and started to travel. I saw the Earth fall away, and then saw just the expanse of the universe, kind of thing. All the stars and everything. It was almost like my body had stayed in one place, but my spirit or something was moving through the galaxy and everything like that. And so it was a pretty intense experience. And once I came back from that, it kind of it was the message of like there's more going on here than I think. Everything's not the material construction of the reality that we see. It's there's something more going on was kind of the takeaway from that. But it also
Right.
gave kind of an appreciation for having life, because to me it was almost a near death experience kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
it was pretty intense.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's amazing. I never actually experienced out of body. I never had an experience. I've studied about it. I've read about it a lot because I met a few people also who sort of described to me, and it's a very interesting thing when you hear different people who don't know each other, separated by whatever amount of time, explaining or describing almost the same exact experience
Yeah.
without having heard about it, without having read about it somewhere. It's a very, yeah, it's a very interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, I really think that I don't. It can be, and that they've seen that it can be helpful for people that do suffer from PTSD, and it's kind of like maybe it's like a hard reset on your computer, on your drive.
Mm.
It can be
Yeah,
that way, um, to kind of get you to maybe look at things in a different way.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, my first experience with mushrooms was a batch that I grew because I was trying to get them and I couldn't find them anywhere. I couldn't find anyone who was selling them. So I decided, all right, if this is the case, I'll grow them. So I got like the spores and got the whole thing set up, and I was so worried when it was time. Like I had a pretty good flush, but I was sure it wasn't going to do anything. It was 2 weeks, so I took far too much.
Yeah.
And I had a very humbling experience. I didn't lose myself, but the opposite. I sort of experienced myself as going crazy
Uh huh.
and hearing these voices in my head and seeing this very Hollywood style of kind of going insane. You know how they do in the films where they portray it.
Yeah.
Experiencing that for a pretty long time and going very far into myself. And from that moment, I learned, yeah, to respect the mushroom as teachers, as very advanced, organisms, however you want to look at it, which would need to be treated with respect.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about myself. I think that was one of my big fears as a young kid, especially in the army, of like losing touch with reality and going too far off the edge. And that experience kind of really helped me deal with some of those core issues. And really, after losing a part of myself and going over the edge, coming back from it was a very teaching and augmenting experience for me.
Wow. Yeah. 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 It is a very humbling thing because you're, yeah, when we all have that, it was the same with me. It's like you don't want to let go of of what the reality is or whatever,
Right.
but that's, what happened was like, I had no choice but to let go.
Yeah.
It forces you to let go,
Yeah.
kind of.
I think one of the craziest experiences I had was on ayahuasca. And I was in the middle of this intense, peak of the whole ceremony. I was looking in front of me, and the whole reality in front of me, the whole like three-dimensional picture, suddenly sort of became two-dimensional, and it was lifted like this edge of the curtain, which kind of revealed something behind that layer of reality that was my everyday experience. And I mean, what I saw the other side, I really can't put into words in any
Yeah.
way, but it was a crazy experience to see, like, wow, this whole thing that I'm attached to and that I believe is real and is my experience is just so easily shifted aside, moved, and transformed as something else that really makes it lose its validity, and how powerful a grasp it can have on me, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So that happened. Did that happen while you were in Ecuador?
No, I mean, the crazy thing is, I actually went to Ecuador to be to study shamanism, to become a shaman. That was what I
Yeah.
wanted to do with my life, and I never participated in an ayahuasca ceremony.
Oh.
For 6 months, I was there for 6 months, and I never met with a shaman. So it's it's crazy how these things happen.
Yeah.
But I was shown something else. I think I had to go that far, other side of the world, and get away from all my baggage, family, the army, culture, Israel, just put it all behind me and go there to hear a message that I just couldn't hear back in Israel.
Yeah.
And I relate to what you were saying before. I mean, that I really feel, my big role here is to be some kind of educator and to help other people, grow and become better versions of themselves with knowledge that they may be unaware of, just like I was unaware. So that
Yeah.
was really the calling that I got there, which took me a long time to kind of understand how I want to utilize that. But ultimately, my role as a shaman, or if I wanted to become a shaman, that would be an egotistical choice because it's cool and it's for me and it's what I want to do and it sounds exotic.
Yeah.
And actually, my real calling and where I can do the most good, I think, is more as an educator, as boring as that may sound.
Well, isn't that the really the role of the shaman really is to kind of be a teacher of just another way of looking at things?
I guess, yeah.
I don't know. It's like what how would you define that role?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the shaman is like the guide who kind of helps the community, yeah, become aware of things they don't know. So I guess in a way that's true. Thanks. I guess I am completing my shamanistic journey.
Yeah, yeah. I think it really, if you kind of break it down, is that they are the shamans are a teacher, and they're a teacher of a different way, of or a different point of view on things, and yeah, it's something that I've been drawn towards as well. Is that whole aspect of we have all our organized religions and. I feel like I really can relate to kind of what you grew up in with in the Judaism and in the main religion there is I was raised Catholic
Hmm.
and so there's a lot of the things in Catholicism which are like if you don't do X you're going to hell. If you don't do X and X in this right order and you do it every week, then you're gonna you're damned to hell. So it's like I never vibed with that, and so the kind of put me on my own spiritual journey towards seeking truth, and really it's all been about seeking the truth. And I didn't find that really in my the religion I was born into.
All right, I completely relate. Yeah, and I think it's statistically very interesting that so many people just so happen to find their one true religion exactly where they're born. You know, I
Yeah.
think there might be more to it than that. That a lot of people sort of accept what they were given and never really question it. I mean, for me, when I was like, I think I was about 15 or 16, I kind of realized that if I want to judge Judaism objectively, if I want to judge this religion that I've lived my whole life and have never known anything else, I have to step out of it. I have to take an objective step away from it and give that distance time to give me a new perspective on it and see it for what it really is, not just how it looks from the inside.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's everybody's got to go on their own journey and figure out and know yourself. Or the journey is really about figuring out who you are as an individual, I think, and that's a big part of the journey. And until you can be comfortable in your own skin and know who you really are, you know, deep down, that you can really shine in the world, and so you can really bring your true gifts to the world. And so that's I think it's an important step, but for everyone to take is to start to do that and try to figure out who they really are. But it's so hard nowadays, with, you know, everybody's pretty much just trying to struggle on that rat race to just try to scrape by, and a lot of that is why I'm involved in the whole crypto community is because that offers, you know, a potential of moving away from the centralized control of our money and from being part of that rat race anymore. And it's also part of the whole homesteading aspect, which is, you know, if you can, and you stated it in your blog, was that you know, instead of working for somebody else, you're going to be working harder, but it's going to be for building something for yourself and supporting yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm as I said, I'm less aware of the cryptocurrency, and I certainly believe in the idea behind it, because that's exactly what we need to do, is get away from the banks. But for me personally, my real calling in life was definitely to go walk down this path of becoming self-sufficient and self-reliant. And no matter the amount of work, I think that if you do it smart, you'll actually be working less in the long run.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like people, I mean, I see everyone working hard. I don't know anyone who's like laying back and just kicking it and making all that money. You know, I don't know many people outside of my circle, but all of my friends and all the people that I know all work very, very hard and don't make enough. They never really get to a point where they can stop that hard work. So if you're going to do that anyway, and if there's a way to do it where you can actually free yourself from that economic system to a certain degree, where you provide most of the things that you buy right now and actually grow them yourself, where nature provides them free of charge, and, you know, water comes freely from the sky, and I mean, all these different aspects that we can source for ourselves locally and cut out so much of the expenses, it just seems like a very natural, logical idea to me. I don't know.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's like, just that I kind of created a vision that, especially now with the advent of so many different manufacturing technologies. In my background, it was in mechanical engineering, and so I've been a huge technology nerd since I was pretty young, and I grew up reading.
Lucky.
I grew up reading the Popular Science magazine and everything like that, and so I had this vision, like I've always looked and seen the future, I guess, and so, you know, I kind of have absorbed a lot of these new technologies that have been coming out, like 3D printing. There's energy technologies like wood gasification, and doing recycling of plastics, and doing small scale refining using wood gasifications and things like this, and then you have your biogas digesters and things like that. and solar power and all these things now. And just like you're saying, you know, you can use all these local resources now, and when you can add in some of our more modern technology, it can kind of make those processing these local materials easier. And so
Exactly.
so we have a lot of tools at our disposal in this age now that were never around previously, that can enable us to become our own producers.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I loved your handle on Steam because it's a great thing also because there is this kind of movement. I saw a few TED Talks by the guy who kind of whatever spearheaded Arduino. I won't go into the whole debate of who started what, but
Yeah.
you know the Arduino panel. So
Yeah.
he gave a few TED Talks and he talks about this makers community, and that was kind of my start into that whole 3D printing and just becoming aware. I mean, I haven't actually done anything of that kind, and I don't have much experience, but this concept of people being so independent in comparison to what they used to be. So it just used to be that people had this very narrow field of knowledge where they could do this one thing. You know, before the Industrial Revolution, I'm talking about like the blacksmith. That was what he did. You know, he couldn't grow vegetables. He couldn't, whatever it was, he would just do that thing. And that was how society functioned. And now we have this huge revolution where people can make their own tools. People can use those tools to make new things. People can invent new machines to do things that weren't done before. I mean, on a huge scale, you know, you watch YouTube channels or whatever, all of these makers websites, it's just endless people pouring out so many creative ideas and so many ways of solving problems that we didn't have before. And it really ties in beautifully to what you said, which I truly believe today. I mean, we kind of ended our book on this note where the way into the future is not, you know, like some of these people who are technophobes who say we should just revert back to whatever stone tools and, you know, paleo diet, et cetera, but it's the marriage between these ancient techniques and methods that have proven that they work over time, along with this new technology and new understanding that was never available before, these new resources, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I think so, and it can really rapidly help people become more self-sufficient, utilizing the technologies that have been developed that can aid in that. And I think we're all kind of electric Ewoks. That was said by I think it was on somebody got interviewed on a Joe Rogan podcast or something back a while back, and he coined that term that we're kind of like electric Ewoks, and that's kind of the future that I like to envision is kind of an electric Ewok kind of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because you mentioned before your spiritual path, and again, like spirituality versus technology is a lot of the times they're pitted against each other as one sort of canceling the other, you know, and I think that's a mistake. I think that when used properly, these can be really enhancing of each other, whether it's, you know, technology allowing us to have more time. This is my idea. I mean, one of the big reasons I want to become a homestead, I want to have this self-sufficiency, is that I'll have time to work on my spiritual journey of becoming a better person, becoming a more aware person, being able to, you know, grow as an individual, which is so hard to do in the rat race, just like you said. So I think these sort of concepts that are kind of, on the one hand, they're very, very old. Whenever I tell people, oh, we want to grow our own vegetables, they always think of this like, you know, Middle Ages farmer, serf, you know, part of this like huge field where he's sort of growing for the king. And that's not the case anymore. You know, we have very advanced methods. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, we really do. Yeah, one of the projects I was involved in locally, when I was working in a corporate job, they did reach back efforts, and so one of them was to we found a local food kitchen that had a garden established on their property, and then we got involved and we built them these raised beds, and we put they already had a greenhouse and they were starting plants and everything, and so we built raised beds out of the corrugated metal and wood, and then set them up on all automated water timers so that the guy that ran the program could be mostly hands off, and they could, double, triple their production with, less time input to the thing because of the automation of the water systems and stuff. And so, and then they would have to do less weeding with the raised beds and everything. So it's, we have a lot of these tools with, just simple water timers that, can increase your production and make you more hands off on these growing techniques and things. And so, we have a lot of these tools at our disposal now, for relatively, low cost if you plan it out well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's a very exciting time to be alive, I think, and to be doing this for sure. And on top of that, of course, we have all the resources of like the knowledge, that all of these people who've been doing this, or homesteaders like yourself in this podcast, or just all over the internet. You've got so many people sharing their ideas and their experiences and, their wisdom that they've gained, that that's another thing you just can't compete with to what was before,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So going from Ecuador, you moved back to Israel, and then it was your girlfriend at the time, but is now your wife. You guys went together to India.
Yeah, I mean, that was a plan all along, and we both sort of felt we went to India not knowing what our next step was. So we had this, ticket for 6 months, and we knew we wanted to go there, and we were going to be in the south, but we didn't really know what we were going to do when we came back. So we didn't really have a plan there, which I think was what allowed us to stay in this one place for 3 out of our 6 months in India. So for a pretty long period of time, and it was staying there for 3 months that allowed us to have this very meaningful experience of, these things sort of take time to get rid of that city rush, to get rid of that, unease that sort of we all have, where it's like, where's my watch? What do I need to do? What are my missions? What time it is? All these things sort of melt away when you have nothing on your schedule and you have no place to be and you have nothing you have to do. So it was a very freeing experience, and that was when we kind of really started to see the value of living close to nature and living a very different lifestyle that's not the rat race, wake up in the morning, drive to work, etc., but actually a lifestyle where you decide, okay, today it's raining, so I'm going to change what I was going to do because the weather affects my decision. Or today I'm going to work on, this side of the house because I've just found this pile of tires, or whatever it is, like allowing your life to actually be something spontaneous and allowing it to be under your control, where I can decide what I want to do, on a day-to-day basis, and not have to just go into this drone, like day in, day out, do what I'm told, same job. I mean, I love my job that I was working at. I was a kindergarten teacher here, and it is an exciting job because you work with kids, but it is still the same. Yeah. I mean, I think all of these jobs, ultimately, you sort of, if you're told what to do and you're part of this big machine that you don't really get to move around in, you're going to end up kind of in a furrow,
Yeah. So that's I just posted your recent article there about it was your last day on the job recently.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, Thursday. Yeah.
Okay. And so now it's now you guys are preparing to move to Portugal, and you said that the whole thing evolved with you guys had a week to find your property out in Portugal. That's a time crunch.
Yeah, 1 week. It was pretty crazy. I mean, like we were talking about synchronicity before, but we really did believe, like, okay, you want to move to a different country. So right now the whole world is open to you. How do you decide? Like, where do you start? What parameters do you even choose? It's a mind-boggling decision.
Right.
And I felt that it's very much, for me at least, it's the same as, deciding to spend the rest of my life with my wonderful wife. it's a decision that you can't say, okay, I've checked every other possible combination that I could have with every other human being on the planet, and I've seen that this is the best one, because it doesn't work that way, you know. There's this
Right.
voice inside of you that can always be of saying like, okay, but I don't know that there isn't someone else out there, quote unquote, who is better than me. So how do you quiet that voice? How do you actually know that you've made the right decision? And for me, at least, I think it's a big part of having faith in this process that's going on, and this path that I'm on. That sometimes I'm in control and sometimes not.
Yeah.
That led me to meet my beautiful wife, and I've enjoyed every minute of the last 5 years we've had together. And it was the right thing to do, even though I had no idea at the time.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the same with the land. I mean, we found this piece that of the week we were there, we saw I think 10 plots. So
Okay.
10 plots out of a whole country.
Yeah.
It's not a lot, It's like it's in no way like enough to statistically say anything about the country. But that
Right.
was the time we had. That was what came to us, and we kind of decided to go with it. And as it happens, that same plot that we wanted to and that we started bidding for, we didn't end up buying. So,
Okay.
yeah, after spending that week there, doing whatever we could, actually getting in touch, starting the whole process, and it fell through. The seller decided he wanted to keep the land and to sell it later on, I think, for a high price.
Oh, that's disheartening.
Yeah, exactly. Very disheartening. We're back in Israel. I can't get back to Portugal. We're both here. I'm working, Steele's pregnant, so we kind of just sat and waited. And then, synchronicity, my now friend, but then he was our estate agent, sent me a WhatsApp one day saying, hey, this isn't one of my lands, but a friend of mine or someone I know is selling it as a third party, and I thought it might interest you. It's not gone on the market yet, have a look.
Uh-huh.
And it looked perfect. It looked just like what we, everything, all the parameters that we'd said that we wanted, it had. So
Wow.
we were actually going to buy it. Yeah, we were going to buy it with a friend of ours. So we decided that he and I would go, because Cleo was, I think, 7 months pregnant at the time. So
Yeah.
decided maybe good idea for her to stay here. So I left my pregnant wife for 4 days.
Yeah.
But we went to the land. I was there for 20 minutes, maybe 40 minutes in total.
Wow.
And we decided to go for it,
Yeah. Wow. Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, scary, and yeah, who knows? I maybe listening to this podcast 5 years from now and saying, "Oh, that's where the mistake was." Why couldn't I turn back? But
Yeah.
no, but I don't think so. My next video actually that I'm editing now and working on is about Sleel's first time visiting the land. We just got back from Portugal 2 weeks ago, so that was her first
Okay.
time seeing the land, and I was there for a few days. And I won't give away any spoilers, so you watch the video. But
Yeah.
but we're moving to Portugal. Everything's still as planned, so it's
Cool.
okay.
Cool. So you have you said you have your friend that went in on the property with you. Is he moving out there with you?
He's not moving out there. He's a very special individual. I love him with all my heart. He's one of the nicest, sweetest guys I know. But
Yeah.
he's very special, and he travels a lot. He's in Nicaragua right now. He travels all over Europe, visits Israel. So he's not going to be staying on the land per se
Okay.
like us, but he's going to be there for a while, and he wants to start his own project in another property close by that he bought. So we're going to be in the same area working, but he's not exactly like, we want to move to the land and live on the land.
Yeah.
We don't want to leave again. That's it. We found a place we want to plant trees. This is our home. So for him, I think he's still moving around a bit, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot going on in Nicaragua right now with the unrest that's going on down there. We have another Steemian, one of the homesteaders groups, is a CC Caster, and she has a homestead down there in Nicaragua. She's an expat from Canada, and she's kind of kept everyone abreast on what's going on down there, and it's pretty crazy times in Nicaragua right now.
Wow, I didn't hear anything. What's going on?
Well, they pretty much have there's a lot of civil unrest, and they're kind of in a similar situation to what's going on in Venezuela, and the government's kind of put a clamp down on the city in Managua, I believe, and in the capital. And then they don't have the people are kind of fighting back with like fireworks and different things like that. And their power grid is kind of in and out spotty and stuff like that. And so, Rondon said the government's killing the protesters. The crime is out of control. It's kind of spiraling down there. So that's interesting that your friend is traveling there.
Yeah, he didn't tell me anything about that. When was this? When did it start? Like a while ago, or is it now?
Oh, it's at least probably been going on for about a year now. We started getting word. There hasn't been much word out in the mainstream about it. Pretty much everything, because the government has kind of silenced people from pushing anything out on social media or anything like that, and so people were kind of still sharing information through Facebook and everything down there, and they were clamping down on some of that information getting out. But Cece would kind of collect what she could, and she was making posts about it. But she's an older lady that the last time I heard from them, she was trying to figure out an extended fishing trip to get out of the country.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, she's okay then.
Yeah, they're still giving updates from time to time, and so she's got like kind of a homestead where they've kind of built a fence around, and they're kind of supported. They have a small community that everybody's kind of looking out for each other. So
That's good.
So she's got that going on, but it's pretty intense there in Nicaragua right now.
Wow.
Still,
I'll have to ask about. Yeah, I'll have to ask him next time I talk to him why he didn't mention civil unrest.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So it'll be an interesting conversation whenever he gets back from there. So you guys decided on a piece of land there in Portugal. And is it so it's completely raw land, and there's just maybe some road access to it, or are you gonna have to work on building a road and all that to get on the property?
Yeah, no. So there's good road. I mean, it's a dirt road, but there's good road access, and it's sort of a private property surrounded by other private lands all around us. So it's
very
not
nice.
like in the middle. Yeah, it's actually a like 20-minute walk from the closest town, which has all the amenities. So it's close enough.
Hey, that's
But
not
at
bad.
night, yeah, it's a good mix, I think, because at night, there's no power lines around, there's no noise around, there's no light pollution around. So you get that sort of good distance, I think, where it's easy enough to handle. You can get things shipped out, but not too close that you start suffering the consequences.
Yeah.
So the land right now is a pine forest, basically.
Okay.
It's pretty sparse. There's not a lot of trees, so most of the undergrowing is there's a few bushes. There's this rock rose, which is just rampant there all over the place. And there's other few native plants that we're sort of we're not going to touch any of that for this beginning, because it's about 3 hectares more or less. And so at one of the corners of the property, pretty out the way, like right at the corner, there's an old ruin. And in Portugal, it's a lot easier to get permits to rebuild an old ruin than it is to build something from scratch. So to start off, all we have there is like this little water hole, basically, which has this underground stream that fills it part of the winter, but not too much.
Oh, interesting.
And we have the ruin, basically, and that's pretty much it. All the rest of it is just wild land. It's not bare. It's covered by brush and pine trees, but nothing, man-made yet.
Okay.
So we want to live. Yeah, we want to move into the ruin after we build it up and have it all ready, and then when we're in the ruin, actually start living on the land and experiencing and observing it before we start planning anything or chopping down trees or anything like that. We want to take a long time to sort of feel the land, see what it can tell us, see what we can learn before we start making too big a move.
Yeah.
And then we'll see. Yeah.
Wow. So when you say ruin, is it just kind of like a stone structure or something that exists there?
Yeah, it's 2 walls, and like stone foundations. So it's
Okay.
pretty run down. But it's about I do square meters. I can't remember the conversion right now, but like 40 square meters. So I don't know what that is in square foot,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
mm, I'll check it out. But yeah, so basically there's the two walls, so we have to build up the other two walls and put on a roof.
Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna have to probably. I mean, we arrive in September,
Okay.
and you can't really work during the winter. It's a pretty wet area. There's like a lot of rain most of the year, most of the months, and especially the winter months, September to about March, maybe April. So during that whole time, we'll be just being on the land, visiting it, seeing how the waterways work and how it responds in the winter time. And then hopefully in the beginning of like March, April, we'll be able to start building up the house, getting it ready.
Ah, cool. Uh,
Yeah.
Because Rondon has the conversion there. 40 square meters is approximately 430 square feet. There's a little conversion bot on here.
Ah, very nice. Right. I had no idea. Thank you. Who was it?
Rondon.
Rondon.
He's the guy that runs the operations for the interactive social media broadcasting that we got going on.
Oh, nice. Thank you. So thank you twice.
Yeah, yeah. So, wow, that's pretty wild. So, are you gonna do traditional type building with wood, or do you have a plan for that, like cob or
Yeah,
something in your
we
head right now?
yeah, we have more experience with cob. I mean, I've worked with wood and like I can do things, but we've had more experience and we enjoy the material much more. We love the earth and feel. So we'll probably do a wood frame to a certain degree because that just makes it a lot easier. But
Okay,
then build up the walls with a cob, and then yeah, we'll see about insulation and what kind of finish we're going to do. The idea, the plan is that we want to use obviously as much of the local resources that we can, but also as natural a build as we can. So if possible, no concrete, no chemical sealants, and all these kind of things. So we're going to have to
okay,
get a little creative. But the idea is to have a cob with, a mud seal and maybe with lime, um, treat the wood that we use with linseed oil, and then get some proper insulation for the top. We'll have to see what wood exactly we'll use and what we can find around the area.
yeah,
But yeah, get that all in place. And that first structure is really the most basic structure, and we're probably going to actually use it more for like having guests or renting it out at an Airbnb than actually living on it.
okay,
So we're going to live there until we decide exactly where to position our house that we want to build.
okay,
So yeah, the grand scheme, I mean, I'll just go through this very, very quickly, and I'm assuming that the people know the lingo, but we want to plan the land under the principles of permaculture,
yeah,
food forest, earthships, natural farming by Masanobu Fukuoka, and keyline farming. And so,
okay.
keyline farming,
No,
it's a very obscure concept, but it's very, very interesting. I highly recommend it if you're into it.
okay,
This is what my passion, what I'm trying to bring to everywhere that I can that I go. So keyline is basically it's a precursor to permaculture in a certain way. It's also from Australia. This guy called P.A. Yeomans, who in the 1950s developed this method, and his idea was nothing to do with homesteading, growing vegetables, none of that. It was solely water management, designed to increase land fertility. He had very, very poor soils, very, very sandy slate and shell. It was in Australia, so like the desert area, and not
okay,
a lot of rain. And so he devised this plan of utilizing the rain very, very efficient extent. I mean, he actually held water that could last him for 2 years of drought in Australia. So it's
wow,
pretty impressive.
yeah,
And he had like thousands of acres of land. He had these grazing lands. He wasn't really growing vegetables or food. He was just having these huge grazing lands. But this whole theory, and there's a lot of different parts to it. One of the main things that I took away from it was something called the scale of permanence, which is something he devised, which is basically ranking the things that you put on the land as to how permanent they are. So,
okay,
like number one is like climate, which is like it changes a lot, but the climate of the area is something that hasn't changed in a way for a long time, and it affects all of the things that go on. So the next thing is like land shape, which is something that you can kind of change over time, but it's pretty permanent. Then I think I have to remember water. So the waterways and the amount of water, how the water behaves on the land, and then trees, buildings, roads, and fences. I think that's more or less it. Yeah, look that up, check that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, but basically, when you come to design the land, you want to design it in that order. So you want to first look at the most permanent thing, the climate, and decide how that climate affects everything else. And basically, as you go down the list, you get to the waterways, and you first design the way the water will behave on the land, and then you can design the house, the buildings to be away from where the water concentrates, the paths to be on top of on the bottom of the watermarks where it will be safe from the water coming in the winter.
Okay.
And plant the trees on the top of the paths, and it all sort of works together synergistically much better when you do it that way.
Ah, very cool. So, are you going to take like maybe get some aerial views of the property, or do you have any of those? And then, or are you just kind of gonna sketch something out based on what you see around first?
No, I couldn't wait, so I actually paid a drone pilot to take 4K picture, not 4K, but the high resolution pictures of the land from a drone point of view. So I've got those now, and it's one of my projects. I want to make a 3D model based on those pictures and observations from the ground to kind of confirm it.
Oh,
But
cool.
yeah, definitely, you got to have this pretty accurate elevation map where you can see theoretically where the water should go. And so once you have that, you kind of watch the waterways, and you can kind of merge those two inputs of information to really get an accurate way of how the water behaves. And then instead of just, I want to dig a well here, or I put a pond over here because that's cool, you can actually use the way that the water flows naturally, work less, and have it work for you. So that's the main idea, basically.
Cool. So, do you have some kind of software that can help you build that 3D map? It's funny that you mentioned that. I have a family friend of ours, started a company to do LiDAR, which is using lasers and photogrammetry, taking aerial photos to create a 3D map of an environment, and they have a system that can be put on one of those drones, and they can fly over an area and scan it and produce the point cloud 3D map of that area using their technology.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy. I actually saw this video on YouTube of a guy doing that. So he actually flew the drone, and you could see it's incredible. I mean, talk about technology and helping you design your farm. You just send this drone automatic for like whatever it is, an hour flight, no less. I don't know how long it was flying, but just goes all around, takes these pictures, and then automatically the software converts it into a 3D map. So you basically don't need to do anything. You need no technical skill at all. It just does it all for you. It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So your friend is starting a company to do that?
Yeah, he has. They've been operating the company. It's LiDAR USA, and their headquarters is in Somerville, Alabama, which is about 5 minutes
cool.
away. 5 minutes away from where I am currently. And they operate their own little farm, and he studied civil engineering, and his dad was a software developer for a company called Intergraph, which started here in Huntsville, Alabama, like in the 1980s, and they kind of pioneered the 3D imaging using aerial photos, and so they kind of got together, and they built this company after he graduated and got his master's degree in civil engineering, and was having a hard time finding a job locally. And they ended up, him and his dad built this company, and now they travel all over the world with this technology now. And actually, they were featured on a National Geographic program where they took their UAV down in the jungles of the Amazon, and they flew it around, and they were able to actually see these ancient ruins in the jungle with the lidar technology, and it only showed up with their technology. Nobody knew that these things were there. So
Wow.
yeah,
Oh, that's crazy. Wow. Yeah, it has so many applications, this technology, for so many different fields. It's amazing.
yeah, we were. Yeah, my dad and I were talking about this, and just like you're saying, what you're using right now, those aerial photos to plan out your homestead and do it in a permaculture way, is that there's a big opportunity there for people to go around and do like that type of work, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it makes the work so much quicker and easier for them to do it. Something. I mean, you could have a certain amount of these services available before, but the people who did it and the people who came took a lot longer, cost a lot more, had to have very special technique and skill to be able to do it. And now it's like, yeah, like you said, your friend who developed the software is the real part behind it, and now you can just take that around and help people on their farm on a much higher rate, getting it around to as many people as possible.
Yeah, I asked him a while back if I could borrow it to to do
You're
my
lucky.
to do my property, but well, I might have to go help him work on another barn or something.
And that's good barter. Good
Yeah,
barter.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, man, that's really cool. So are you drawing it up in like on your computer, or just printing it out and kind of making your drawings and plans off of that?
No, I'm right now. I'm doing it on the computer. I might have to switch because it's a tough job. I'm no like I'm not in any way trained for this kind of work of going over. I'm not a visual
Yeah,
artist in any way, but I'm doing my best. So it's taking a while, but we'll see. But so far, I'm working on what do you call it, GIMP?
yeah,
The free software. So
yep,
getting to learn that as well. So it's cool. I'm enjoying the experience, and we'll see. I have time because right now I don't need to use them up for to design anything because we're not going to start any designing until we've given ourselves some time. I don't want to. I got so many ideas and so many things I want to do and so many ways to design the property that I'm trying very hard to be patient to let whatever I can hear, come to me before I start putting pencil to paper and actually putting things down.
yeah, and definitely once you get on the land, it'll help you figure out where you want to kind of start placing everything, because the way the sun rises and sets on the land, and how all that works. You start
Exactly.
where the trees are giving you shade in certain areas, and things like that would definitely affect the way that your design goes.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a weird experience because I mean we're happy that we did it, but we kind of bought this piece of land, like 8 months before we're moving to it.
Yeah.
So we have this land, we can do whatever we want with, and yet we're not actually there. So it's very easy to get carried away with your ideas and thoughts. But now we've just been back there, and we're like, oh, okay, this is now we feel we kind of learn so much more, and we know it so much more. And so I'm sure next time we go, we'll learn even more about it. So
Okay.
we'll let that process happen naturally, I think. Yeah. But
Okay.
definitely the aim is to get to the land. We do know a few things we want to do, which is start a garden and build our first reservoir on the top of the land. So we have something to work on when we get there. But other than
Okay.
that, just make it, yeah, livable for us to move in. And as soon as we move in, we can start feeling the place more.
Yeah. So the moving there, and you have a shelter or a building that you have to start working on. Are you guys gonna just kind of camp out for a little while you're there, or what's that process gonna be like? Are you guys gonna buy a camper or something, or just gonna kind of rough it out there for a little bit in the beginning?
Yeah, we thought about a few of those options, but he'll be 6 months when we get there. So we have a little one. So we decided we really want a place. It's been hectic here over the while, so we're going to need some time to like cool off and, get back to our full strength. So we want to have a, fitting, functional house with all the amenities and everything that we need to kind of get us started off on our way.
Okay.
And I also, we met a few people who kind of moved to their land and lived that kind of camper life. And there's something about that, because so much of your energy goes into like that basic survival when you don't have the amenities yet set up. You don't have running water, you don't whatever, so you got to go and get water every day, etc. It kind of makes it harder to work on the land. So I really want to not move to the land until we have a functioning house where we can stay comfortably, so that the whole time before we're focusing on that, we get that done. And once we move to the land, we can completely focus on the land itself and designing, and not have to worry about where's our drinking water coming from, where are we going to get whatever. So
Yeah.
that's the idea for us. Um, and I'm very lucky. We're very lucky. My parents, as hard as it is for them, they are very, very supportive. And because of their first grandson being born,
Yeah.
they're actually planning on buying a house in the village to be able to be next to us, and be able to live there, not live there, but spend like 3 months of the year, 4 months of the year there.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so for us that's a huge deal. We'll hope it works out, but if everything goes according to plan, we might be able to go and stay in their house for the time being and not actually have to worry about a lot of the whatever expenses, etc., and be able to focus on that. So that's what we're hoping for. If it
Okay.
doesn't work out, doesn't work out, but hopefully we'll have a ready house for us to move into, out of which we'll be able to start working on the land.
Yeah, yeah, it's something that I'm struggling with myself right now. I built this trailer. It's all solar powered and has a way to generate water and stuff on board. Luckily, I have neighbors right next to me, the property that I'm moving to, and they can help give me water if I need it in the beginning here and getting stuff set up. But I'm also bringing a camper down there to get a more permanent structure immediately set up on the land, and just like you're saying, make it a little easier to get things kicked off on developing the property while I'm down there, and start living full time down there in that camper. My folks have an old camper that is kind of deteriorating, and it's got some issues with the roof and some of the canvas coming off, but I'm gonna build a kind of like a shelter around it, so that I have something to makes it a little easier to be down there full time and start developing some permanent structures like you're talking about doing on your property
Wow.
as well.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Wow, very nice. I'm very jealous. I wish I was at that stage. But yeah, it's important. Actually, just we met a couple who were living on the land, and they had that exact setup of like a camper van
Yeah,
with this kind of just plastic sheet closing it off for the wind, and they had I mean this small roof that kind of was there. So they had this television, they had the stereo, they had everything kind of set up there, and it's amazing. It's just like living in a house,
yeah,
and you can actually deal with the rest of the things, because it is a big issue of like that first step. How do you actually get to the land if you don't have a house there already or whatever,
right.
that transition can be tough for sure.
Yeah. It's that's the way I think that is the is a good way to doing it, because unless you can uh, truck in all your tools, and you're gonna have to make supply runs and all that kind of stuff, and while you're getting established out there, it's a lot to carry around with you and to do all that. So it definitely helps to have some kind of thing to start off with, so that you're not having to kind of scramble all the time. But yeah, it's man, it's gonna be quite a journey, and for me, just moving from the city to that little piece of property down there is quite a task. And so moving completely different countries is I totally empathize with that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's a big step, but I feel like I kind of came from a family of immigrators, because my parents moved here from England, and somewhere down the line somebody got to England from somewhere else. So I think it's a big move. I think it can, there's a lot involved, but I think it's also a very big change for the better. I
Yeah,
mean, the time that we spent in Portugal, obviously every place kind of has its ups and downs, and I'm not here to, speak ill or good of any specific place. I'm just talking about my experience, but
yeah,
it's a very relaxed country. It's a very laid back country. The people there are very slow in a good way. And for me, that's exactly what we want. My wife and I both enjoy a much slower pace, taking our time. And you get into this crazy hype when you're in the city. I mean, I'm here now. I work, this week was kind of a lot of work because I usually work a few days a week. And then this week was like the summer activities, the summer camp that we do in the kindergarten.
Okay.
So I was there every day, opening and closing 8 till 4. You get into this routine where it's such a high energy kind of nonstop all day, and then get home and kind of just crash and turn everything off and kind of shut down, and then save up your energy for the next morning to do it all again. And if you
Right.
slow that whole pulse down, I feel like when I get to a place where I'm in nature, like what happened to me in India with Karuna, or even in South America where the lights were like tiny light bulbs that didn't really do a lot. So when the sun goes down, it's nighttime, and you certainly don't want to be hanging around when it's nighttime in the jungle. So
Yeah.
you get into this kind of natural cycle where your rhythmic cycles of your biology are in tune with the cosmic cycles of the sun, of the plants, of the Earth's magnetic sphere, etc. And it really has a huge impact. I feel, at least, that it calms me down. It gives me better energy. It makes me more relaxed, more higher functioning. I mean, I really feel a difference. And when I live in these concrete boxes that are sealed off with renovations going on across the street or whatever, it just gets that tense feeling where I'm not straight, I'm not balanced.
Yeah, yeah, and there's something about when you're living in a city, it's like when you're coming from a city house, when you're kind of close to everybody, it is kind of like you want your own space, and it's kind of hard to to fully express yourself, and I think people are kind of maybe a little bit more closed off even in the city from connecting, because everybody kind of wants their own little space, and it's kind of hard to claim that in a city.
Right, exactly. I mean, perfect micro example is in the kindergarten where you have 25, 4 and 5 year olds running around
Yeah.
between chairs and tables in this confined space. And it's like, if we have the insight to see that dogs shouldn't be treated like that, when we say, oh, dogs really need a space to run, you shouldn't be keeping them in a small apartment. Kids are no different, in terms of the energy, some of them at least, really need that space to just run around and, like you said, express themselves and be you, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, it's
Yeah.
very important for me that my son in the womb was already very active, and ever since
Yeah.
he's come into the world, he's just full power, and I was the same, so I kind of expected it might be a challenge.
Yeah.
It's so easy if you have the space. Like we got now, 3 hectares just of woods to run around as a kid. Like what more do you want? Especially at a younger age.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it just gives you so, and then you run around all day. You get all that energy out. You can actually come inside and sit down because now you've let out some of that steam. Whereas in kindergarten or in school or in all these places where it's like, okay, sit and don't get up for 8 hours.
Nah, that's
That's
not
it.
how kids are wired. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, granted, some of them maybe, and some people definitely can do it. I wasn't. I'm not wired that way. Now I
No.
can I can do it, but back then,
That
forget it.
Yeah, that's there's a lot of there's this whole movement of unschooling now, which is something that I'm, if I ever have children, it's something that I'm really interested in pursuing. Is that you send them to no formal schooling, but you're teaching them, real life skills, and then, whatever they're interested in, then you can help support them and get them involved with a mentor of some kind in that area. And whether it be like we're talking about like carpentry or blacksmithing or software development or something like that, or
Nice.
making videos and all that kind of stuff, you just kind of support them in whatever their expression of what they are most interested in doing. And just like we learn as adults, we try to seek out the information through searching the internet or finding somebody that's doing that kind of thing that we can learn from or something like that. I mean, how is that any different for a kid? I mean, It's the modern the modern way that people are educated is very like it builds in that obedience, I believe, and it's not really about thinking creatively. It's more like can you follow orders and can you regurgitate the information that we're giving you?
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. That's exactly how I feel about it. I mean, there are some very interesting people, especially today, who are talking about this new unschooling and different form of education. But even back then, like I remember it was another TED talk. I think his name was Sugata Mitra. He was an Indian researcher, and he had this hole in the wall experiment. That's what it was called, where he not dropped. He put a computer screen into the wall in this like impoverished area in one of the big cities in India, where nobody knew English and the kids didn't actually have an education. They didn't go to school, and he left it with like a mouse and a keyboard attached, so they couldn't be taken, but they could be accessed. And I can't remember the exact statistics, but like he came back 3 months later, and they taught themselves English. They were surfing the web. They were learning about different subjects, and the kids themselves. They saw this way. The older children who knew more were teaching the younger ones. So there was this like self-learning, self-teaching school of children with no adult supervision, no guidelines, no policing to make sure they're doing what they're told, and they're achieving equal amounts of education. He did a few experiments afterwards showing that like they actually got to the same levels that children who were going to the most expensive private schools were getting to.
Wow.
So yeah, that for me was a big turning point of, okay, in the same way that Fukuoka saw that rice growing on its own without any interference to the same health and degree as the rice that people were working hours and days every year. And he said, okay, maybe we should take away some of what we do and see how it functions on its own. Kids, I think, are really the same. I mean, definitely provide the guidance, definitely provide the tools, give them, what they need. But very much like plants, you need to allow them to grow. We're not actually growing anything. We're not educating children. We can allow them to educate themselves,
Yeah.
It's like now I have this newborn, so I'm seeing it firsthand. But children who are learning to do things, or babies who learn to talk, who teaches them to talk? How do you teach someone who doesn't know how to speak to talk? You can't talk to them. You can't write to them. You can't explain any of these concepts. They just learn from just being, from just having that around them. You learn to do it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And kids are like that with everything. Like if you're on a homestead and your kid can just walk up to you and see you making something, editing, whatever you're doing, your kid will learn just by being there.
Mimicking you, yeah.
Exactly. That's the way I think it should be, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember growing up, I was always looking to help my dad with any kind of project that he was working on. And yeah, I learned so much by helping him. That was one of the big ways that I gained a lot of my skills was by just being there with my dad and whatever project he was working on, just being there to help him out and just watching what he did and then learning from that. And, he was a big car mechanic. And so I was always out there helping him with car maintenance and all the stuff with cars. And now I'm able to, be able to do most things on fixing and troubleshooting and different things like that from what he taught me and when we were growing up. And so I know one of the guests that just left, Kodaks, he has kind of a similar story. He's a software developer now, but he asked for a computer. Part of his story was he asked for a computer from his parents when he was a kid, and his dad ordered the parts for the computer. And the only way that he could have a computer is by building the computer himself.
Oh my gosh! You see, that's a smart dad. That's wow.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with that. And he did it.
Yeah, he did it, and now he's a big software developer, and he's working on he's built all kinds of little applications in the crypto world. And he's runs a maker space in his local town even, and with 3D printing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's that trial by fire or whatever. You got to figure it out kind of idea is like one of those things where you learn so much. And I know in my personal life, whenever I've been thrown sink or swim, you start to learn things like pretty well. You get a good grasp on it.
Absolutely. Trial by fire, which is kind of for us, it's like as adults, I think we kind of think of it as a scary thing or something that we would rather prepare for, whether no. But kids are great. Kids have no fear. Like you give them a trial of fire by any time, whatever it is, a new game, a new thing to discover, a new machine, a new field. They're right on it. It's really amazing to see that just fearlessness that children can present with any kind of challenge. Like, imagine someone came to you now and said, okay, here's, the newest computer, whatever it is, the one that you want, it's in bits. You got to put it together.
Yeah.
You'd be like, no, I can't. I don't know how to. Where would I even begin? Or maybe you not. But most people, would be like, that seems like an impossible task.
Right.
And if somebody said, I gave it to my child and told him, if he wants to, it's like no child could learn to assemble a computer unless he was some kind of genius or some kind of, which I'm not saying he isn't, but I think in general, we should be treating children with a lot more respect of like, they don't know what they can't do yet. So they're willing to find out, they're going to push themselves a lot harder than we do just because they don't stop themselves as much as we do,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One of the guys that I started to look into was John Taylor Gatto, and he was an educator in the New York school system for like middle school age kids, and then he started to adopt this whole kind of unschooling idea where he would let his kids excuse them out of the classroom or whatever and hook them up with the things that they were interested in. So like one of his examples was he had a student that was a swimmer, and he sent her out to go on a mission around town to catalog the hours of all the pools in the area that had swim hours or whatever, and post that in the local library and all that. And so she took it on and did all that, and is now like moved on to be like some kind of entrepreneur type person and all that. And it was because he kind of found what she was interested in and let her go after it. And he said at one point he had like no students in his classroom, and the and the administration was like really getting onto him because they're like, where's all your students,
of course.
And they were all out on their own missions to explore the things that they were interested in. So
wow, I'll have to, what was his name again?
John Taylor Gatto, and
check that out.
He was I guess he won like the teacher, like won this big teacher award, but he's a big advocate in that whole kind of unschooling movement. And then he has a really great there's a guy Richard, I think his name is Richard Grove, and he has a thing called Tragedy and Hope, and he did a whole interview with John Taylor Gatto, kind of like a history lesson in one sitting, and he kind of goes into the whole history behind the modern education system and how it was built. And
Wow.
A very fascinating interview with him on that. So if you go on YouTube and you search John Taylor Gatto, and you should be able to pull him up.
Yeah, I'll check that out definitely, because I'm interested in the field of education generally. I sort of taught in a classroom as well, and I've been in different kinds of formal and informal education.
Okay. Yeah.
Different kind of activities, and it's all very much centered on like, take these kids, push that information in, send them along on their way, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm very interested in that. It's interesting because have you heard of The Pedagogy of the Oppressed?
No.
By Paulo Freire. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but he's a South American writer, and that's one of his more famous books. Basically, he talked about the revolutions and why they didn't work. And this was at a time, in South America where all these regimes were being taken over by new soldiers who were coming in just being the same dictators that they were supposed to replace. And so he broke it down as to being when a leader wants to help a community, he has to actually come and be part of that community and to encourage that community to help itself or at least guide its own help.
Yeah.
So if you come from above and give these orders of, oh, I'm looking at the situation and I decide they need more X, Y, or Z, that's actually not very helpful. Whereas if you let these grassroots movements, so this was, 50, 60 years ago. Now it's very common, these whole things, but I feel it's the exact same with children, with education, where if we come from above as the authoritarian, just like you said, making them into these passive, just following orders kind of people, then that's what we're going to get.
Yeah.
And if we want to have these amazing people who are creative geniuses, who are, pushing things forward. I mean, you see it all over, these amazing individuals, a lot of whom, dropped out of school or, went on to study something else that interested them afterwards or whatever. You see that when you let them grow and be who they want to be, push themselves in the right direction, they can lead to amazing things. So
Yeah.
I really want to raise my son, in that way. Absolutely.
Yeah, so he's a brand new little guy, huh?
Yeah, pretty brand new, 4 months. So
Wow.
right at the beginning. it's an interesting experience to have it all at the same time.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. That you'll be able to raise him in a different way that most people will be raised.
Yeah, I keep joking that it's actually a social experiment. It's like what happens if you raise a child from day one in a natural environment with as little pollutants, with organic food, with rainwater, with minimum screen time, et cetera, et cetera. Like, what does that person look like? So I really feel that it's a kind of social experiment, but just because I want to raise him the best way that I can, and from what I've learned, the best way to give him the environment is to have as clean and natural and toxin-free environment as possible. And the way to educate, if that's really the word, is to do as little as possible and just provide the right environment, right settings. So, maybe in 18 years he'll come on your podcast and tell him that it was all wrong. I made a huge mistake. I should have sent him to school. We'll see.
No, I think that'll be awesome. I remember I have so many great. One of my first memories was following my older brother into the woods and going on a Lewis and Clark expedition. And I think we had just maybe learned about Lewis and Clark, or my brother had, or something like that. And he had explored this little part of the woods with our folks were with us or something. And then, he wanted to go out and explore it on his own, and I came along for the ride, and and we were gone all day, and our parents had no idea where we were, and we finally hiked back, and when we got back, the cops were all there. And my older brother was like, I know where I was going, why are you worrying? I had it under control. But yeah, that was like one of my most vivid memories of being a kid, and we were kind of raised in an area where there's a lot of woods, so that was one of the coolest things, was going out in the woods and building forts, and getting and seeing the wildlife and learning about those and picking up bugs and frogs and lizards and all that kind of stuff. It was pretty magical growing up like that.
Wow, it sounds amazing. Yeah, I'm very far from it. I mean, I grew up in Jerusalem till I was about 8, I think, and then we moved to like a kind of a suburb. So it was a bit, a few less buildings and a bit more trees, but it was all concrete paved. It was a desert, so no woods or anything natural around. And that was the way I spent most of my life. I mean, the first time that I was out in nature for a long period of time was probably Ecuador.
Yeah.
So it's nice that you had that as a child, and I exactly that's what I want to provide for my son. To allow him to have that experience of, I'm not saying that I shun cities. I'm saying you should never go there. Obviously it's a complex life that we live, and I think cities play a big part of it. But I would like to have the opportunity to have somewhere that he can, get lost in the back and go and pick up lizards and
Yeah.
hunt frogs or do what kids do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was one of the things is that it kind of gave me a fear of snakes because my brother would pick up everything and he would pick up snakes and kind of like threw one on me one time, and while I didn't even know, and so ever since then I've had a really complex about snakes. But I think when I was really younger, I was really fascinated by them and everything. Pretty much every animal that we came across was fascinating. But after that point, I have a fear of snakes.
Understandably,
Yeah.
for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, nature is amazing. It really, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
speaking of the first time, well, not the first time, but when I really started appreciating nature was on psychedelics.
Yeah.
Where before that, I would never look at trees. Like you walk down the street, you never stop and, smell the roses literally, or look at the trees, or look up at the sky. And on psychedelics, I mean, you have to. It's like it's calling to you. You suddenly stop
Yeah.
by the same tree I've seen, probably 1,000 times in my life, but somehow it just looks different. It looks wise. It looks like it's trying to communicate something, like it has all this wisdom stored up in it. It's amazing. And I
Yeah.
mean, now I'm happy to say I've actually managed to incorporate that feeling into my life where I'll go down, I'll look up at the moon. I'll notice what part of the sky the sun is in, or I'll take time to look at trees, etc. But it's something that's become a very important part of how I want to live my life. And it was opened by psychedelics, but definitely stayed there because there's something powerful about nature. As a
Yeah.
kid, you don't really appreciate it, because you see it and it's like usual, and it's something that you don't have a perspective of knowing how amazing this is. That it's like, wow, this
Yeah.
whole other being and this whole other life, this whole web that I don't understand, but I'm somehow a part of, is still going on around me. Even when I go to sleep, even when I go back home, it's like everything out there is living and growing and dying, etc. So
Yeah.
it's a very
There is a lot to that, and actually the soil being alive, and it's actually the soil and the biome, the microbiome in the soil is in communication with the roots of the trees and everything like that. Like if there's mycelium in the soil, the roots of the trees can actually, in a crude way, communicate with the mycelium to help draw water into their root structures and things like that. And they've even seen that kids that play in the dirt and get dirty and all that kind of stuff over the kids that are in a more sterile environment have more robust immune systems and things.
right.
Because our biome, our gut bacteria, and those immunities are built through the communication of all the living bacteria and organisms in our environment as well.
Absolutely. I really, Terence McKenna said that, which before you would take this, kind of weird jungle concoction that someone handed him, he would always say the mantra, "It is good to challenge the immune system." And
Yeah.
I really like that, because it's true. It really is healthy, or it's unhealthy not to challenge the immune system, to
Yeah.
let it sort of wither away because it's not actually doing anything. The more you are in communication with the outside world, learning about it, letting your body learn what's good, what's not good, how to deal with these things, it actually, like you said, it becomes more robust. Your whole immune system and your general health becomes much better. And
Yeah.
I think that's a very important thing for children, especially nowadays. I mean, seeing all these kids who are just with this ton of Purell, just constantly, like they're
I
surgeons,
know.
just all the way up the arm, and like, won't touch anyone. And it's like, wow, this is so unhealthy. Germs are also good. Like 90% bacteria DNA. We have to live with that. That's a very important part of our
Yeah.
biology.
Yeah. They've with the astronauts that are living on the space station, their immune system becomes very compromised from not being interacting with the biome of the planet.
Oh wow, I've
That
never heard of that.
yeah, they've done studies with the astronauts on the space station, and their when they come back to Earth, their overall immune system has been degraded by not being in contact with the with all the organisms on the planet. So we are in a symbiosis with the planet, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very interesting. Yeah, it reminds me of something Rudolf Steiner said, where he said that we treat the bee and the flower as two separate beings, two separate biological entities, but really it's one whole process. They can't live without the other. I mean, you took that as an example, but it's a very clear state where if one of these, doesn't exist, then the other can't exist without it. So in the same way that we kind of have these arbitrary lines that we draw where, okay, this is my body, so my heart and my brain are very, very different organs, but we see they're interconnected. So we call it like one body, even though they're two separate parts, they work in unity. But then when it comes to like two people or me and my food, me and the tree that grows the fruit, we kind of don't make that same connection of even though, they're separate, even though they're different, there is this very important interrelationship that both species need in order to survive. It's
Yeah.
like Terence McKenna would say that he thinks, mushrooms grew people because they didn't have hands. So, like, I'm not sure if, grew in the same sense, but definitely evolved to interact with our consciousness in such a specific way so
Yeah.
that they could, interact with a being that lives above ground.
Right. Yeah. It's
It's,
it is a really cool thing, and it is something that I've explored, kind of going down the different research rabbit holes that I often go down. But there's a couple of books that I read that were suggested to me by some of the people I follow on YouTube. And one of them was Morphic Resonance, which was written by Rupert Sheldrake. And he very much talks about the interconnectedness, like everything. He's kind of regarded as maybe like a woo-woo kind of scientist guy, but what he is describing is actually how the web of everything being connected in the environment is actually in constant communication for the things that we're seeing with like epigenetics in like one of the examples was a fruit fly, is that a fruit fly may adapt this certain characteristic of like spines on its back to help protect it from predators in its lifetime. And then in the next expression of the next generation, the flies have a more pronounced spine in that next expression of the fruit fly, and
wow.
and it's like everything that in the environment is talking back and forth with each other, building the complexity as time rolls on. It's pretty fascinating.
Right, absolutely. And it's such a wonderful example to try and mimic and try and emulate that in a homestead where we've built these kind of, tumors which just suck resources and don't give anything back and, are very hard to maintain and keep losing their value over time. And if we try and mimic nature and the way it works, you have a homestead that's actually part of the environment, communicating with the environment, trading resources with the environment, taking and giving back, and having a much more holistic system that's so much more robust and so much more stable over time. It's a very clear example for me of the importance of that harmony and synergy that you need to have with your environment. If you don't have it, you're going to be fighting against it, a losing battle in a way.
Right, right. That's the powerful thing in the permaculture techniques and practices is that you are just enhancing and just like you're saying, working with the environment in a synergy effect to really help the abundance, and I think that just from from my personal experiences in gardening that it's so amazing to see these things grow, and sometimes in the worst conditions you think that the thing might die, but then it just kind of can come back to life if you're providing the right environment for it, and it is a beautiful thing to experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see it as, I mean, permaculture and other different, gardening techniques where it's such a crucial step that what you're trying to do is part of this. And the more you move outside of that web of life, the more you move against it, the worse the results are going to be. It's like something I kind of realized in natural farming where, we work very hard to kind of rake the ground and to plow it and to turn it over because we want to aerate it and have the water seep in better and we want to break it up. But really, there's a whole, web of, like, part of this web of life charge for aerating the soil. They do that work night and day as part of their, daily lives. And we're coming in, killing them off by plowing and doing their job for them. And then we have to do that again because nobody's left to do it. And understanding that if we shift that idea of, oh, what I'm trying to do is actually being done by nature. And a lot of the times it's being done better because it's not destroying the underground life, but it's actually aerating the ground in a healthy, natural. And then I don't have to carry on doing it because they keep doing it. If it's a healthy environment, if things are growing there, that will keep on occurring by itself. And understanding the same thing with, pesticides and pest control and all these different elements that we've kind of been bashing our head against the wall, trying to beat nature at its own game and still trying to get it to, bend to our will, where in fact we can actually be part of this, closed loop, give and take, and part of this amazing, system that creates abundance. We don't have any other system that create abundance the same way nature does, where you have a certain investment, and if you don't, if you plan it right, you don't need to invest anymore, and it keeps on producing. And that same production will go as an investment towards further productivity in this sense of biomass or animals from the outside coming in and bringing new seeds or manure. Whatever it is, that's the way the system works. It's designed to create abundance. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that. That's one of the things I truly believe in is that humankind is, instead of thinking about a scourge on the planet, that we are abundance generators, and we have the ability to turn everything around if we just change our mindset, just like you're saying, and to start thinking of things in the mindset of abundance instead of the mindset of scarcity, and to adopt that growth mindset in your life, and nothing is impossible, or things that you don't understand yet. You just don't understand it yet, but you can, and if you work at it, you can learn it and you can become very good at it. And so that's the growth and creative abundance mindset versus the static and static non-creative mindset, scarcity mindset, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, Orliv, we're coming up on the end of the show, and I just wanted to give you the opportunity to, if there's any last words that you'd like to share with the audience, and your Steam, just to plug your Steam account one more time, is at Orliv here on Steemit, and if there's anything else you'd like to leave with the audience today.
Thank you very much. Well, I just want to say thank you again for giving the opportunity. I mean, it was an amazing experience, and I hope for all our listeners that you enjoyed it. Make sure you follow Making Stuff if you're not. Great content as well, and it's a real pleasure to be part of this wonderful community. So thank you all, really.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Orliv, for taking your time out of your day to come on the show and share with all of us your journey, and very much look forward to everything else that you're gonna be posting out here on Steemit, and very grateful for you to be part of Steemit and be sharing with all of us. So So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep, you bet, bud. And yep, so we'll look forward to your journey, and all the best for moving on to the new homestead and the new life.
Thank you. Yeah, looking forward to updating you all. For sure.
That'll be great. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out for the Meadows and Makers podcast. We got another one great episode coming up next week. We'll be back next week for a brand new guest. Same time, same place here on the MSP Waves. Coming up next, we have Crimson Clad and Steamwave Saturday to talk everything Steam and any of the questions or anything that's going on in the new happenings on Steemit. Crimson Clad tries to do her best to cover with you guys and fields your questions. So stay tuned to Steamwave Saturday and the lovely Crimson Clad. And I will see you all next week. And to play you guys out, we have Awake by Divine and Junk Feathers. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.